Hello, I hope you're all doing well today. So today we're going to kind of dive into the wealthier component of progressive ethos, and we're going to talk about the pros and cons of investing in real estate. So, the investment in real estate is really a good way you can make good money, but there are downsides too. So I kind of want to cover those also. But the reality of it is, if you're thinking about investing in real estate, you really need to understand the pros and cons and really make sure it's the right thing for you. So you don't necessarily have to be an expert in real estate, but you definitely have to have knowledge and build on that knowledge to really be successful. So what I want to just touch on is first some pros of investing in real estate. So the first real obvious one is that you can really leverage your money within investing in real estate. What that means is you can buy real estate, but you don't have to provide all the cash or capital to purchase the real estate. So whether it's your own home, what you're financing, or commercial property or whatever it is, typically you don't put in all of your own money. You put in a down payment and then you get a mortgage for the rest of that. So that's going to really add your ability to increase your income and increase the value of your investment. Now, understand leverage can also be a two-edged sword. If you are over leveraged, meaning that you have too much money financed, it can be a problem if you can't cover those expenses. So it's important to really know what your financial situation is. But it really means that you can, buy a house that's a $200,000 home and say only have to put 20% down, and you're going to see how that benefits you. And the first way that benefits you is typically real estate appreciates. So on average, depending on the market, you can see anywhere from a 3 to 4% appreciation value in your real estate each year. And that doesn't include any renovations or improvements to that property. But the important thing to understand that this is over a long-term period, that there's going to be fluctuations in the market. You're going to have good years and bad years. But if you're willing to stay in it long enough, typically you're going to have about an average of 3.5% appreciation per year. And that's on the total value of the assets. So again, if you put 20% down, your appreciation is still going to be on the total 100%. So you can see how that's going to produce a bigger return for your investment. And also, another benefit of real estate is you can generate a positive cash flow, meaning that if you rent out the real estate, so I'm not talking about your own home that you're purchased here, I'm talking about rental properties, be it residential rental property or commercial rental. But the whole concept is really you're generating more rental income than expenses to cover your mortgage plus additional expenses. So if you do this right, you can actually have cash coming in each month as a positive cash flow. Now, again, this is very market dependent, so you really need to do your research and evaluate the properties and the market, the current trends in the markets, so you're really not getting yourself into a problem. The second thing you need to consider is, remember, when we're talking about real estate in the concept I'm talking about as a real estate investor, okay, not a property manager, okay. So in your calculation of expenses, you need to have the expense that would cover a professional property management company, so that you aren't a landlord that's going over and fixing the toilet at 2 a.m. But you actually have a company that does that, because again, I'm talking in the concept of real estate investing. Another pro of investing in real estate is you can fix and flip. What that means is typically you buy a rundown property. You can either put sweat equity into it, fixing up yourself, or hire contractors to do that. But the whole concept is buy something that's very, very underpriced because it's run down and needs to be updated. You put in some money to fix it up, bring it up to the current standards of the market, and then sell it at a profit. The nice thing about this too is you're actually not tying your money up as long. Typically, a flip's about 6 months. So you can then flip and then take your profits and either go on to other flips or do whatever you want with it. But it does give you a nice ability because you still have all that leverage component with that. So another benefit of real estate is tax benefits. So there's quite a few tax benefits, just like any business owner. There are tax benefits. You can write off certain expenses. You can depreciate. You can deduct, some travel expenses associated with the property. The important thing here is you want a good tax advisor. Another benefit of real estate that's really pertinent in today's world is it can really hedge against inflation. So typically, as inflation goes up, the stock market goes down, meaning your stocks become less valuable. But the nice thing about real estate is typically as inflation goes up, so does the value of your real estate, including rents. So the value of the asset's going to increase, and if you have rental properties, typically you're increasing your rents. Not that you're going to make more money in your pocket, but you're going to hedge against inflation, meaning that while your take-home dollars will be kind of the same in that the value of whatever that market is, you're hedging against the inflation. Another great thing about real estate is you're building equity. So if it's your own home, uh, every month you're paying down that mortgage, you're building equity in that. That's in addition to the equity you're building by the appreciation of the value of the asset. So you're building equity. Now, if you're also into rental properties, your renters are actually paying down your mortgage for you. And as I already talked about cash flow, if you've done it right, they're paying down your mortgage, plus you have a little bit of cash flow coming in. So you're building equity there, plus then the value of the asset is increasing at 3.5% a year. So that's really building equity. And the nice thing about that is that that's equity you can typically uh, use to either put back into the property to add more value to it, or take that equity and apply it into another property. So you're increasing kind of your portfolio of real estate. Another pro is you really control the real estate investment. Unlike stocks, you put money in the stock market, someone else is making lots of decisions going to have an impact on what that stock value does. And you really have little control other than whether you decide to put money in that stock or not. Real estate's a little bit different because you first can decide if you're going to buy it, like a stock, but then you can also decide, is there things I want to do to improve it, to increase its value. You also, if you're into rental properties, you get to pick your tenants, so you can make sure you have good tenants in the property, and so you get to really determine kind of how the property's ran and how you can increase the value. Now, it's also important that as you do this, again, I'm talking about specifically if you're into rental property, that I would advise to really have a really good real estate team, because again, you want to be a real estate investor. So, like anything, there's always downsides. So I want to talk about some of the cons of investing in real estate. Well, the first kind of downside is you've got to be a long-term investor to see these good returns. If you're kind of a day trader, if you will, real estate's not for you, because you got to be in it for the long haul. Because like I said already, the market's going to fluctuate. It's going to have ups and downs. And if you're trying to get in, get out, you're really going to probably get hurt, because there's so many things that can affect the market short term. But the whole idea is to get in the investment, keep the money in there, and then just let it grow. But it's a long term. Now, I already did mention the fix and flip property, so that's a little bit different, but it's still a 6 month investment at least. So you can say that's a short term, but again, you're still going to be very dependent on the market. It doesn't take much in the sense of a large corporation in the community or something having problems and doing layoffs that could really negatively impact your investment. So again, I would look at a real estate investment as a long-term investment. The next thing is you need capital. Now, there's lots of things you see advertised for no money down, low down, and while those may be true, you're really leveraging yourself to the point that can be dangerous. You really need to make sure you have the kind of the capital, whether you're putting money directly in or you have other assets that can step up and help you in the case of a downturning market. But typically, you need to have a fair amount of capital, even if the amount of down payment is low. Let's say 10%. Well, on a $250,000 home, that's still $25,000. So still, you have to have capital to really get into the market here. The next thing is you really need to know what you're doing. Now, if you look at stocks and bonds, you just kind of give someone your money and hope it does well. And the reality of it is real estate. I mean, you can do that too, but you're going to lose real quick. The important thing is to really know what you're doing. You don't actually have to do everything, but you need to have a real estate professionals helping you, and you need to understand what it is they're doing, what the advice they're giving you. So, some things you really want to know is really how do you find the right properties? How do you bid on those properties? Then, if you're in the rental world, how do you find good tenants? How do you manage the property? What's the exit strategy? How are you going to sell the property? And then if you're in the fix and flip arena or the rental agreement or rental world, you really need to make sure you know how to fix up the properties or have the resources or the people on the team to do that. Because really the thing is while you can make a lot of money in real estate, your mistakes can cost you a lot too. So, so one mistake can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars in losses. So it's really important to know what you're doing. Next thing is there is no guarantee you'll make a profit. So I've already told you that, 3.5% appreciation a year on average, but the reality of it is, depending on the markets and when you get in, when you get out, you can still end up losing money and you can end up losing a lot of money. This is where leverage plays against you, because as you increase your leverage on the property, any downturns is going to increase or magnify your losses. So people invest in real estate to magnify their profit or increase their profit, which is what everyone talks about, but no one ever talks about the downside of that, that it also works against you in a downturning market if you don't have the resources to survive that market. So again, it goes back to your capital, understanding your financial situation. Another downside is real estate can really take a lot of time and effort. It's not something you should just put in money and just kind of hope or forget about it and hope it'll grow. You need to be an active investor here. While you may have a team of property managers or people like that to kind of run the day in, day out aspect, you really need to be certain that you still are staying knowledgeable and staying aware of what's going on with your properties, both so that you're making sure you're not losing money, but also so you're aware when it may be time to implement an exit strategy. So that doesn't mean you're there 24/7 fixing the property, but you really got to stay on top of it, stay on top of the markets and what's going on. So what do you do if you're considering investing in real estate? Well, the first thing is you got to do your research. You've got to know what properties to invest in, what makes it a good property, what makes it a bad property, what's the market in that area doing, such as what's the rents, things like that. Um, but you really have to do your research. The next thing that I would tell you is you really got to invest your own money. That doesn't mean you have to invest your own money for the total price of the asset, but trying to do real estate with no money down is probably something that can get you into trouble real quickly, because again, you're leveraging yourself so much that any downturn or little friction point along the way can really be financially devastating to you, force you to exit that market uh, during a downturn because you don't have the resources to cover it, and then that means you get out at a loss. Another thing I'd advise you is really kind of pick your niche. We talk about real estate in general, but there's residential real estate, there's commercial real estate. But even within those kind of two big categories, there's residential, single family homes, condos, duplexes, apartment buildings. The list is kind of endless. So, I would say that you really need to pick something you want to get good at so you can learn about it, study it, really become understanding what it is. And that's really going to help you to really kind of find your niche, if you will, and that's going to maximize your potential in making money, versus just investing on a whim. Another thing is the nice thing about real estate is you can invest in other areas. That doesn't mean you have to invest in the town you live in. Obviously, there's real estate all over the world. The great thing about real estate is, if you're a real estate investor, not a property manager, and so you calculate those costs into your expenses, then you can really invest anywhere in the world. And that's going to really help you assess different markets where they may be in a downward cycle that would be a time to buy. And so you can go invest in those areas. And so the nice thing is you can kind of diversify yourself even within the real estate market itself. So, these are just some points related to real estate. It's a good investment vehicle if it's done right, but it also can be a devastating investment vehicle if it's not done right. So, like any risk or any investment, there's risk, but really, if you can really understand and educate yourself on the ups and downs of real estate investment, you're going to make better decisions. And reality is hopefully you can enjoy some good profits. So hopefully, if you're on your path of wanting to be wealthier, hopefully you'll consider real estate and get out there and do the work so you can be a real estate expert. So hope this helps. And remember, you got this.